Most people will work for 45 years and never reach financial independence. Not because they didn't earn enough, not because they weren't smart enough, but because of three invisible barriers almost nobody talks about. Today, I'll show you exactly what they are and the 5-step path to becoming the exception. Let's begin. Before we talk about why people fail, we need to be honest about what financial independence actually is. Because most people get this wrong. Financial independence is not about being rich. It's not about a yacht or a mansion or never working again. Financial independence is a simple, measurable thing. It's the point where the income from your assets covers your cost of living. That's it. When your money earns enough to pay for your life, you are financially independent. And here's the part that surprises people. There's a number, a specific, knowable number. Take your annual expenses, multiply by 25. That's your financial independence number. If you spend $40,000 a year, your number is $1 million. If you spend $60,000, it's $1.5 million. Why 25? Because of a well-known principle that suggests you can safely withdraw about 4% of your invested assets each year without running out. 25 times your expenses. That's the finish line. And most people have never once calculated it. Now notice something important about that formula. It's built on your expenses, not your income. That's not a small detail. It means the person who spends less doesn't just save more. They also need a smaller finish line to begin with. Think about that. If you can live well on $40,000 a year instead of 80, you don't need twice the money. You need a quarter of it. Your target drops from 2 million to 1. Lower spending works on both sides of the equation at once. It raises what you save, and it lowers what you need. That is the quiet power most people miss. And here's something I want you to actually do, not just hear. Sometime this week, sit down for 10 minutes and calculate your number. Your real annual spending multiplied by 25. It may feel large, it may feel uncomfortable, but a number you can see is a number you can move toward. A number you avoid will quietly run your whole life. Most people are running a race without knowing where the finish line is. That's the first problem. But it's not the biggest one. The first barrier is the one I know best, because for years it was mine. Let me tell you something honest. Early in my career, I had a belief I never questioned. I told myself, I'll start building wealth when I earn more. When I get the next raise, when the bonus comes, when things settle down. So I waited, and the raise came. And you know what happened? My spending rose to match it. The raise disappeared into a bigger life, and I was no closer to independence than before. That's the mindset trap. It's the belief that financial independence is a function of income. It isn't. I've seen people earning $200,000 a year who are completely trapped, living paycheck to paycheck just with nicer cars. And I've seen people on modest incomes reach independence in their 50s, calm, secure, free. The difference was never income. It was the gap. The gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, not your salary, is what builds your freedom. When I finally understood that, everything changed. I stopped waiting to earn more and started protecting the gap I already had. Let me give you a concrete picture of how this trap works because it's sneakier than it sounds. Imagine two people. Both start at the same job, the same salary. The first gets a raise and immediately upgrades. A newer car, a bigger apartment, a richer set of habits. The raise feels good for about 3 months. Then it feels normal. And then it feels not quite enough. The second person gets the same raise and decides in advance that life stays mostly the same. The raise goes to the gap. A year later, their lifestyle looks nearly identical to before, but their freedom looks completely different. Same income, same opportunity, two completely different futures. And the only thing that separated them was a decision made in the first week the money arrived. This is why I want you to be suspicious of the phrase, "I'll start when." I'll start when I earn more. I'll start when the kids are older. I'll start when things calm down. Things rarely calm down. There is always a reason to wait. And the cost of waiting isn't just lost money. It's lost compounding, which is the one thing you can never buy back. $1 invested in your 30s does work that $1 invested in your 50s simply cannot do, no matter how much you earn later. Time is the ingredient, and the mindset trap quietly steals your time while you wait for a better moment. If you take one thing from this segment, take this. You do not need a bigger income to start. You need a bigger gap, and you can start widening it today with the income you already have. The second barrier is mathematical, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most people think the path to financial independence depends mostly on investment returns, on picking the right stocks, on timing the market. It doesn't. The single biggest factor in how fast you reach independence is your savings rate, the percentage of your income you keep and invest. Look at this. If you save 10% of your income, which is what most people are told is responsible, it takes around 51 years to reach independence. 51 years. That's not a plan. That's a life sentence. Now raise it. Save 25%, and the timeline drops to about 32 years. Save 50%, and it falls to roughly 17 years. Save 65%, and you could be financially independent in about a decade. Same income, same returns. The only thing that changed was the gap, and the gap changed everything. Now, I'm not telling you to save 65% tomorrow. For most people, that's not realistic, and that's okay. The point is this: every single percentage point you add to your savings rate doesn't just add a little. It cuts years off your timeline. Going from 10% to 20% isn't a small improvement. It can cut your time to freedom nearly in half. This is the math people ignore. They obsess over which fund to pick, while the real lever, the savings rate, sits untouched. Let me show you why the savings rate is so powerful, because there's a reason it beats investment returns. When you raise your savings rate, two things happen at the same time. You put more money in, obviously, but you also lower the lifestyle you have to fund forever. A smaller lifestyle is cheaper to sustain, so your finish line moves closer to you. Investment returns only push on one side of that equation. Your savings rate pushes on both. That's why it's the strongest lever you have. Now, I want to be fair and honest here, because financial advice often isn't. If you have a low income, raising your savings rate is genuinely hard. There's a floor of real expenses: housing, food, transport, healthcare. And below that floor, there is simply no gap to widen. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. If that's your situation, the honest path runs through income for a while. Skills, a better paying role, a second stream, until there's a gap to work with at all. That's real, and it's okay. But here's what I've seen far more often. It isn't people with no possible gap. It's people with a real gap who never measured it, never protected it, and let it leak away, while telling themselves the problem was their salary. For most people watching this, the gap exists. It's just invisible, because it was never measured and never defended. So here's the practical takeaway. Find your current savings rate, the honest one. Then set a target just a few points higher. Not double, a few points. Then climb slowly, 1 or 2 points at a time, as raises come in. You won't feel a few points, but a few points, compounded over the years, can pull your freedom forward by a decade. Pick low-cost, broad index funds, automate your investing, and then turn your attention to the thing that actually matters: widening the gap, steadily, on purpose. The third barrier is the most misunderstood. It's about where your money actually leaks away. You've heard the advice: stop buying coffee, skip the daily latte, and you'll be rich. Let's be honest about that. A $5 coffee every workday is about $1,200 a year. It's not nothing, but it is not what's keeping you from financial independence. The real leaks are bigger and quieter. They're the decisions so large you only make them once, so you never think about them again. The car you financed for far more than you needed. The house at the top of what the bank approved instead of what your life required. The subscriptions you forgot you had. The insurance you never reviewed. The small upgrades that quietly became permanent. These don't feel like leaks because they don't feel like choices anymore. They feel like your life. But every one of them is a decision, and decisions can be revisited. And there's a deeper version of this leak. It has a name: lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is what happens when your spending rises every time your income rises. The raise comes in, and the lifestyle quietly expands to swallow it. Look at this chart. The income line climbs, and right beside it the spending line climbs too, step for step. The gap never widens. You earn more, you have more, but you are no freer than the day you started. This is why people who earn more sometimes retire later. Their lifestyle grew faster than their wealth. Here's the fix, and it's simple but powerful. The next time your income rises, decide in advance, before the money arrives, how much of it your lifestyle is allowed to keep. Let your lifestyle keep some of it. You've earned that. But send the larger share to the gap. Automate it, so the decision is made once and never has to be made again. Plug the big leaks. Tame the creep. That's barrier 3. Before we move on, I want to give you a simple way to find your own leaks, because they hide well. Pull up your bank statements for the last 3 months, not to feel guilty, just to see clearly, and sort your spending into 2 piles. Pile 1, the things you genuinely choose again. The trip that mattered, the tool you use every day, the meal that was worth it. Pile 2, the things that just happened. The subscription you forgot, the upgrade you no longer notice, the recurring cost you've never once questioned. Pile 2 is your freedom sitting in plain sight. You don't have to cut all of it. You just have to see it. Because money you spend without choosing is money working against the life you actually want. And notice the emotional trick here. Plugging a leak in pile 2 costs you almost nothing in real happiness because you weren't even enjoying it. That's the best kind of saving. It widens the gap without making your life smaller. That's very different from cutting things you love. I'm not asking you to live a joyless life. I'm asking you to stop paying for things you never chose in the first place. Plug the big leaks. Tame the creep. Choose your spending on purpose. That's barrier 3. So we've covered 3 barriers: the mindset trap, the math people ignore, and the invisible leaks. But underneath all 3 is one shift in thinking, and when it finally happened for me, it changed everything. For most of my early life, I thought of money as something to spend. You earn it, and then you exchange it for things. The shift was this. I started seeing money not as something to spend, but as something that could buy time. Every dollar I invested wasn't a dollar I lost. It was a small piece of my future freedom. A few minutes, a few hours, of a life I wouldn't have to trade for a paycheck. I remember the moment it became real. I calculated for the first time how many months of my life my investments could already cover. Not years. I wasn't there yet. Months. But it was a real number. And I realized I had already bought back a piece of my own time without noticing. That reframed everything. Saving stopped feeling like deprivation. It started feeling like buying something I actually wanted. Freedom, in small, steady installments. When you see money this way, the barriers lose their grip. You don't wait to earn more because you can buy time today. You respect the math because the math is measured in years of your life. You plug the leaks because each leak is freedom draining away. Financial independence isn't really about money. It's about ownership of your own time. That's the shift, and it's available to you the moment you choose it. I want to sit with this idea for one more moment, because it's the most important thing I'll say in this video. Most of us trade time for money every single day. We hand over our hours, and we receive a paycheck. That trade feels permanent, like it's just how life works. But investing quietly reverses that trade. When you invest, you take money. and you slowly buy your hours back. You're moving in the opposite direction of the daily exchange most people never escape. And the beautiful part is that this isn't all or nothing. People imagine financial independence as a single distant day when everything changes. It isn't. Every step along the way buys real freedom. A fully funded emergency cushion buys you the freedom to say no to a bad situation. A growing portfolio buys you the freedom to take a risk, to change direction, to breathe. You don't have to wait until the finish line to feel this. You start feeling more free the moment the gap starts to grow. That's why this shift matters so much. It turns a decades-long project into something you can feel today. Saving stops being a sacrifice you make for a stranger, your future self, and becomes something you do for the person you already are. When you see money this way, the barriers lose their grip. You don't wait to earn more, because you can buy time today. You respect the math, because the math is measured in years of your life. You plug the leaks, because each leak is freedom draining away. Financial independence isn't really about money. It's about ownership of your own time. That's the shift, and it's available to you the moment you choose it. So let's make this concrete. Here is the 5-step path, the exact sequence I'd follow. Step 1. Calculate your number. Annual expenses times 25. You cannot reach a finish line you've never defined. Do this today. It takes 10 minutes. Step 2. Measure your real savings rate. Not what you think it is, what it actually is. Take what you invested last year and divide it by what you earned. That number is your honest starting point. Step 3. Widen the gap by one decision. Don't try to transform everything. Pick one leak, one subscription, one upgrade, one big recurring cost, and close it this week. Send that money straight to investing. Step 4. Automate it. Set up an automatic transfer to a low-cost index fund on the day you get paid. Freedom should not depend on willpower. Make it the default. Step 5. Defend the gap. The next time your income rises, decide in advance how much your lifestyle keeps and send the rest to your future. Protect the gap every single time it's threatened. 5 steps. None of them require a bigger salary. None of them require luck. They require only that you start and that you stay consistent. Let me add one honest warning about these 5 steps so you actually succeed with them. The mistake most people make is trying to do all 5 this weekend, perfectly, in a burst of motivation. They calculate the number, slash every expense, automate everything, and feel incredible for about 2 weeks. Then life happens. The intensity fades, and because they built the plan on a spike of willpower, the whole thing quietly collapses, and they conclude that they're just bad with money. They're not bad with money. They built on the wrong foundation. Willpower is not a foundation. Consistency is. So here's how to actually use these steps. Do step 1 this week. Just calculate your number. That's it. Let it sit. Next week, do step 2. Then step 3. 1 step at a time, 1 week at a time. Slow, deliberate progress that survives a bad month will beat a dramatic transformation that doesn't, every single time. Because the goal was never a perfect month. The goal is a system that keeps working when you're tired, distracted, and no longer motivated, which eventually you will be. 5 steps. Walk them at a human pace. The consistency is the strategy. Most people never reach financial independence, but now you know why, and that means you don't have to be most people. 3 barriers: the mindset trap, the math people ignore, and the invisible leaks. 1 shift: money is time, and 5 steps to walk the path. If you want to go deeper, the book that shaped this entire way of thinking is Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. I've left a link in the description and the pinned comment. If this video gave you a clearer picture of your own path, subscribe. I publish every week, clear thinking about money, wealth, and long-term strategy. Next week, how to build wealth after 50 and why it is genuinely not too late to start. I'll see you in the next one.